So here's what we're going to talk about today. So, we're going to talk about what is a brand. Let's set that straight. We're going to talk about guiding your brand. So, like, how do you cast that vision and guide it to your customers and to the world? Building your brand, like, how do you set the foundation of your brand? Talk about how, when things happen with customers, like, how do you deal with those things? Proactive brand management, it's better than damage control. How can you kind of get ahead of yourself on managing your brand? And then we'll obviously have some key takeaways, where to go from here, and resources to kind of help you dive deeper if you want to. Oh, awesome. Ka's in here. Awesome. Good to have you, Ka. All right. So if you're joining us on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe if this is your first time joining us live. You'll get updates on future content, stuff like that. If you're joining us on Zoom, be sure to connect with us on YouTube as well. But also, you can find Headway on Twitter, Instagram, Dribbble, and all the other platforms as well. So, and if you're just curious about more what we do, you can go to headway.io. All right. So what is a brand? That's a good question. A lot of people are like, oh, it's your logo, it's your fonts, it's your colors. It's like everybody thinks that brand is something that you can put on a piece of paper. It's like a book of this is your branding. This is what that is. But a brand is actually a result. So it's like the logo is just a part of that toolkit of like creating that result. So what does that mean? So Marty Neumeier, he's the writer of The Brand Gap. He's basically a brand professional. He helps people, some of the biggest companies in the world, like improve their brands, refine their brands, define their brands, all that kind of stuff. But he says it's a customer's gut feeling about a product, service, or a company. Sorry, I'm just moving some of my panels around here so I can read my slides better. But yeah, so it's like all these things that happen that a customer sees and engages with, like they have this like gut reaction. So you see an ad on TV or on your phone, or you see an incident on Twitter of a company doing things, or like how they engage with other customers. Like even if you're not a customer yet, you can see how a brand or a company is engaging with other companies, with their customers, with the world, and that leaves like this this feeling inside of you of what you think about them. Another thing he says is, customers, they take whatever it is you throw at them. So like I was saying, like all these little things, and they make something of it. So they craft a narrative in their head. Likes to say in their heads and in their hearts. So it's like you're throwing logos at them, new logos, like, like for example, Google just like changed all of their office suite stuff, like the Gmail and calendar and stuff, and everyone's like so mad about it, and that impacts like what people think about your brand. Like those are like all these little things that happen, and they make you think about it. And sometimes you forget those things happened, but they all kind of like leave a mark and kind of mold like what you think about them, which is kind of crazy. It's like there's so many small parts to what a brand is. And basically it's your reputation. So like the result of everything you do and what your customers experience. And so every customer has a unique perspective of you. So that means instead of like there's one brand that you create, everyone creates, like, so for example, like someone like Nike, there's millions of people, if not over 1 billion people, that like have a unique perspective of their brand. So there's like 1 billion different versions of the Nike brand in everyone's heads. Like it's kind of crazy to think about. And it's, whether they grew up with it or they engage with that brand later on in life, or whoever introduced them to that brand can have an impact. There's so many different variables there. It's cool and it's kind of crazy. And Marty kind of emphasizes a brand is not what you say it is, it's what they say it is. But let's talk about, since that's true, let's talk about what you can do to kind of like, I'm going to say guide your reputation. So like let's set the scene so that when people decide what your brand is to them, you're putting like, you're kind of narrowing what that can be. Like you're reducing the variables of like positive and negative. You're making it more neutral or positive if you can. And the things you can do is like what you show them. Here's the 3 things I like to think of is what you show them, what you say, and what you do. Like I think that last one, actions speak louder than words, and it kind of emphasizes what you show and what you say. So yeah. So the first thing is show. It's like logos, colors, fonts, graphics, photography, videos, animations. Like those are things that you're showing them visually. Like they interact. Like whether it's on your website. Say you have a place of business. How does that environment feel to them? What are you showing them? What does your website look like? If you have an app, like how is the app UI and the experience like there? What are you showing them? And how does that make them feel about you? The next thing is what you say. So what voice do you have? What's your tone, the vibe you create, the energy you create? Are you formal or are you more casual? And what words do you choose to use over others? So what are maybe if you have competitors, like maybe some competitors are super formal, buttoned up and clean, and maybe you just want to be super casual and and just really chill about everything you say. That's totally up to you. But you have to remember that all those things can kind of craft the narrative for people that engage with you. The next thing is what you do, the actions you take, choices you make. People see if you're publicly sharing, like we're deciding to support this initiative that, like whether it's philanthropy or something, the experiences you create through the people of your organization. So like if you have a team, everyone on your team is also a part of your brand. So like they engage with your customers, they engage with people that could potentially be your customers. Maybe they're just random people like, oh, where do you work? Like all of a sudden, like people that like may never work with you still have a thought or a brand of you. But the idea is that the choices you make and the things you do are super important too. So let's talk about building your reputation. How do you decide what you want to be known for, and like how do you do that? So there's kind of three things I think about. Product, it could be service to product or service. So if you're providing like contract work or something, or you're a consultant, and then there's people. So it's you, yourself, or the people on your team or in your organization. And then there's place. And place I like to think of as like website or your place of business, like your location or wherever you engage with them. So yeah, so I kind of talked about that just before, but product, think about that. But product is your product or service, and it's solving problems. Is it solving problems effectively for them? That's like the first thing you should think about. Does your product or service solve problems effectively? And maybe it does already. Then the next thing is like, let's make it great or greater and better. Like, let's just like, it's already great, but let's make it better, because over time, like they're going to like start to realize like, the thing I started buying from then 10 years ago is like the same thing. It hasn't gotten any better. And all of a sudden, all these other companies, other products are like coming out and they're better. I'm not going to buy these anymore, or I'm not going to work with them anymore, because they're not staying up to par with like current trends, new technologies, or just like what's going on in the world. Like they don't care enough to care about me and my needs. So that's something to think about as product. People, so your team, your culture. So like the first thing is you want to hire people that care. They might not, it's hard to get like people, every single person on your team to care as much about your business as you do. Like that's kind of a weird, crazy ask, but hire people that care about what they do and how they treat other people. So it's like, people that are compassionate, people that are open-minded, people that have like a growth mindset. Hire people that care. And you want to empower them to help your customers. So like, that's like educating them, priming them for success, like giving them the tools and the resources to make decisions on your behalf because you trust them. That's the thing. You have to build this trust relationship with your team so that you can empower them to like help your brand grow and do all the cool things. So yeah. The last thing is place, as I said before, your website or place of business. This could also be like your product. Maybe you have an app, whether it's a web app or a mobile app. That also is kind of like your place of business in a way. It's like, how are you engaging with people there? So what experience do you create? Whether it's the user interface or the user experience, or maybe if you have a place of business, like people are walking into your office or into your restaurant or whatever it may be, like what is that experience like? What are you creating? Like how do you want them to feel when you leave or when they leave? And that's important because it's like it's like, I don't know, like it's funny. There's a lot of restaurants that I'll go to, and like maybe the food is mediocre, but like the vibe was like super crappy. I'm just not going to come back. But maybe the food is really good, and the vibe was super good, and I'm just like, oh, like I'm definitely coming back. And sometimes the food can be crap, but the vibe's super cool and you still come back. So it's like creating that environment, that experience that gets people to come back, allows you to keep finding better ways to serve them better. Because if they keep coming back, you have more opportunities to grow that customer with you, which is cool. The one thing I want to say next is like things happen. People do what they do. People will they'll get mad at you or they'll have a bad experience. They'll leave bad reviews. Well, like whether it's on Google or Facebook, or they'll go on social and they'll just like they'll say all sorts of bad crap about you, like, or they'll get on a payphone. They'll find a payphone. I don't know where they're going to find one, but they're going to find a payphone. They're going to call all their friends and tell you why your product sucks or why your service sucks or whatever. Hopefully it doesn't happen to you, but they'll stop using it. They'll stop, paying. They'll stop being a paying customer. They'll cancel. They'll unsubscribe. They'll tell your friends why they don't like you. So what? And it sucks. Yeah, it's like a crappy feeling when like people are publicly talking about you. So what do? You know, there is hope here. So this is like the next part. Like, let's talk about proactive brand management. And it's kind of about doing the right thing. If you can, make it right. Try to create, if like somebody has a bad experience with you, follow up with them, reach out with them, try to understand like what went wrong, where it went wrong, all these things. And hopefully you can create a change of heart. That's kind of the first thing. And there's really no solution to this. It's kind of like you kind of have to do it and go through those moments. But the biggest thing is like, if you can prepare your team to have better customer service, or if you can to serve your customers or your clients better, make it right. Like, do the right thing is kind of what I'm getting at. The next thing is stand up for something good. Sometimes like when people know that you have really good intentions to make a difference in this world, sometimes like when you make mistakes, they'll be more forgiving. So that's something to think about, is like whether that's philanthropy efforts, or just being a part of something in your community, stand up for something good, and try to make a difference, because that can kind of like increase your chances of forgiveness. The next thing you can do is like educate your customers. Maybe they had a bad experience with your product or service because they didn't know what to do. They didn't have the tools they needed. They didn't have the information, the knowledge they needed to actually succeed. So how can you provide content to them, whether it's like a PDF, a video, maybe it's a blog post, maybe it's maybe you have a workshop, like maybe you have events, like to teach people about something that's important to you or about your product to help them succeed. If you educate your customers, you can prevent those failures, that friction from happening and the negative reviews from happening. It's all about like, empowering them to succeed. Chris Dew from the future likes to say, if you really want to grow an audience, you need to share your secrets. So that's about education. Like, there's really nothing new under the sun. It's kind of like that whole thing. It's like a lot of things, at the end of the day, it goes back to just like getting back to basics and teaching people the basics. And sometimes like we want to keep things close to our chest, but at the end of the day, the knowledge that we have, it kind of takes a lot of energy for someone to take that secret that you have and actually do something with it. It's like people that have new app ideas, like, oh, I don't want to tell you what it is or I don't want to just like talk about it in public because someone might take it. Well, yeah, that could happen, but the odds of that are really crazy. Like, the odds of someone having the market knowledge, having the money, having the time, the energy, knowing what you do, the experience you do, like just someone willing to commit and have the willingness that you have is very unlikely. So there's nothing wrong with sharing your secrets and teaching others, because I think there's something to be said too when you teach others too. Like, a lot of opportunities open up in ways you can't really imagine for your career or for your business. As I was saying before, create blogs, videos, host events, build a community around your product. When you build a community, then what can happen is like all of a sudden you'll start seeing your customers teaching each other. Like, that's kind of crazy to think about, but it happens. Like, for example, I actually just joined a community called Swipe Files, and it's a bunch of marketing managers and marketing directors from a bunch of different companies. and Corey put together this community and we're paying to be a part of it, and we're all helping each other. Like, it's crazy. Like, he's kind of jumping in, but like we're helping each other, and that's like pretty cool. Like, that was his goal. But the idea is like amplifying the impact you can create to create happy customers. And then the final thing too is improve your product. You just make it great, make it better. Talk to your customers to learn how you can serve them better. Really understand like what their needs are around like the product you already offer, or maybe there's like ways you can improve your current product. Like, try to talk to your customers to see where there's a value add there, or just understand if there's pains with your current features, or just in your place of business, if there's pains like in your office or in your restaurant or whatever it may be. Like, understand like how you can make that whole experience for your customer or your client just a little bit better. For example, even if you're like a consultant and you work with clients, how do you make that onboarding process with a new client really smooth? How do you make the offboarding process really, really smooth with a client that's leaving or done with a contract? Because then they're leaving with a really good feeling like, wow, I'm like really confident that how I feel about leaving from you, like this relationship and like what I have now from you. Like, if I ever need this again, I'm definitely coming back because I feel really good right now. So that's something to think about too. So the next thing is, where do you go from here? And I think I have a plan. Hopefully this helps. So the first thing you can do, it's pretty simple. Is just create brand guidelines. And it's about setting ground rules for your brand. So it's everything from, and I'll actually share a link to, actually Sam wrote a great blog post, and we have actually a Figma template you can use. But it's the idea of like setting the standards and rules for like your say you do have logos, like how's your logo used? Say you do have fonts, like what do you use what fonts do you use and when? Color usage, photography, like look and style and feel. Same thing with video. What is your voice and tone? Like, what language do you use? Like, how do you communicate? Like, all those kind of things. You can set all those things and create like a document that says, hey, whenever we do anything, this is like our guide. This is how we make decisions as a business, to build up our brand. I'll actually throw the link in there right now, and you can check it out. Awesome. The next one I want to say is take care of your customers, like kind of going back, and they'll take care of you. So, while you're kind of like building up your branding and setting your voice and tone, the next step is like the people part. Like, how do you prime yourself? How do you prime your team to take care of your customers when they need help? So the first thing is obviously you can be preventative, like having a better onboarding experience. How do you take care of your customers so that when they're using your product, like they're ready to go, they're ready to rock, like they feel confident about how to use it, they feel confident how to succeed with it. And if you have a place of business like a restaurant or something, or how do you make sure that your staff like can make decisions to be more helpful and not feel like they don't know what to do? This next thing, obviously, sell great products and keep making them better. I think I keep saying that, but like at the end of the day, if you don't have a good product or a good service, like you can do some crazy marketing to convince people to buy your stuff, but at the end of the day, you need a great product. Yeah, that too. I mean, Quibi, I don't even know how to say it, but I think that's one thing too. Is I think when it comes to selling great products, like sometimes too, like you just assume this is what people want. I think Quibi or Quibi, if I'm slaughtering, I think, if you're selling the wrong thing, like it's not going to, obviously it's not going to work. So I think the idea of like a product failing isn't the worst thing, because you're learning to let that go and to move on to a different product or service. So, but yeah, sell great products and keep making them better. And there's really no secret recipe for that. You just kind of have to keep talking to customers, understand their needs, and just keep trying to make improvements. So this last thing is the resources. So like, the more there's like that rainbow thing that was on TV a long time ago. Anyway, some books I have, I'll share the links, but The Brand Gap by Marty Newman, and then Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. Those are two brand books I would recommend on just like kind of like just foundational stuff. And I'm going to grab those links for you quick. So here's The Brand Gap. Also like share share these in the email, the follow-up email as well. And then I already shared, the other thing too was online. So I already showed the template, but Marty Neumeyer has like a really great interview with the folks at the Future. So he has this deep dive. So some of those quotes are actually from this deep dive conversation that he has with them. It's a great like hour interview, and he's just a lot of the things we talk about today he talks about. So I'll throw that link in here as well. Awesome. Cool. Well, does anybody have any questions? You know, we all have them. I mean, they could be about anything, but do you have any questions about anything we talked about today? I can probably stop sharing my screen and make myself nice and big. But yeah, does anybody have any questions? Otherwise, yeah, I'm all ears right now, all internet ears. Growing a community, any tips on how to grow a community? Yes. So the first thing I would say for growing community is use the tools that are available on the internet. Community building tools. So like, for example, meetup.com is a good one. At least it was. I mean, so meetup.com is definitely more for like physical events, like meeting in person, but that's one place. Meetup.com, just like start a group about a topic that you want to own. As your company, with your company. That's what we did with Headway. We had Wisconsin UX to talk about user experiences and design. And then we started React.js Green Bay to talk about React.js development in the Green Bay area. But obviously we've expanded it online across the country and actually across the world through Eventbrite. So Eventbrite's another way to kind of build like kind of an online community in a way. Through like a newsletter, possibly. That could be another way to think about it, is like building a newsletter, because you don't necessarily have to have a place where everybody gathers, but like having like a cadence of events where like people can like kind of like gather in this kind of setting, like a webinar. So, you know, like a webinar would be another great setup, a YouTube live stream, stuff like that. But Eventbrite's really great because you can post like information on there or a topic, and people that are intentionally thinking about learning about a certain topic will find you through Eventbrite, and you'll be able to connect with like new customers there, which is really cool. There's a lot of other cool tools out there. I can't think of all of them off the top of my head, but I can definitely share some of those in the notes for this event. So we'll be posting the video of this presentation up, and then we'll have all the notes of everything that we talk about today. So I'm going to make sure I write that down to add some community building resources. That was a great question. I think Circle, I think the app's called Circle, circle.so, I think is the other one I was thinking about. You can manage, like, and build a community through that. Let's see. In UX, can you talk about how brand might change in a mixed virtual reality environment? Is that work you do? I don't have any personal experience in a mixed virtual reality, like augmented reality or virtual reality environment. But I think a lot of the principles are the same. Like, you know, just what are you showing? You know, how are you showing it? I think that it's kind of the same. It's like, I guess the big thing is like, does the product work well? So like, for example, VR or augmented reality, like if someone's trying to get their phone to do it, the thing that you want them to do, and it's glitching out, or like they can't interact with the way they want and they get frustrated, like I think that's a part of brand too. Like if you create a poor experience in the augmented reality or virtual reality, that's leaving a mark on the brand. Like, oh, their quality isn't good. Like quality is also another part, like quality of their product, whether it's like the quality of a sandwich, the quality of an app, or the quality of like a concert. Like these are all different things that people think about, whether for different types of products or services they're experiencing. We haven't done any augmented reality or virtual reality at Headway. I mean, Andrew, I don't know if you want to comment on that, but it's something that we definitely can talk to you about at Headway. Let's see. So Austin says, I have a bit of my visual identity down, logos, colors, fonts, and I'm working on messaging, vision, and website copy. That's awesome. Yeah, I think, and something to think about too with like your voice is it can kind of evolve over time. Same thing with like your logos, colors, and fonts. Like you can have a rebrand. You can decide, hey, we're pivoting to this thing now. Like you're allowed to do that for sure if you don't feel confident in what you're doing right now. Is there one area of branding that you talked about today that's the heavy hitter to focus on first? I think great product and great service. So like have a really great product for people to use, or the service you offer, and then like the experience with you or your team, like how you treat people, how you help people, how you make it right. I think that having a great product or service, how you make it right, the rest of the stuff is kind of icing on the cake. So like, for example, like your brand and all the logo and stuff, obviously if you have a really ugly logo, it can be like, I don't know how I feel about these people. But I think like I think one easy way to think about it is that there's a lot of people that can start businesses without a website, without anything. Like they can hop on a call. Like if you're a really good salesperson, you can sell a product and you can like have happy customers. Like that's what I think that's like the most important piece is like if you can serve people well with a great product or service and they feel really good about who you are and their experience with them, like that's what matters the most. I know with like digital products that can be a little difficult, but I think at the beginning, like if you have people helping with onboarding, depending on the type of product, or if you have like maybe someone representing your organization. So for example, say you have a mobile app and say it's a meditation mobile app. What if you just like decided to start a YouTube channel or have someone host your Twitter account and there's like constantly engaging with people on Twitter, constantly engaging with people on YouTube, and there's talk about meditation and all the ways it's like you're building this engagement through your team, through your people, through that person that you choose to like represent you and what you offer. And they can even teach people like how to use the app better or whatever it may be. I think that's something to think about. Oh yeah, thanks for sharing that, Andrew. Hopefully, oh, that's right. I do remember that project. Awesome. Good to hear, Austin. Is fun. I'm just catching up all these responses here. Yeah. Product and service, totally, Mary Jane. I mean, it's like it's easier to also market something that's like is a great product or service. Like I think that's something to think about too. It's like it's a lot more work to sell something that isn't that great. So your job actually gets easier if you focus on making a great product and serving your customers better. The rest can then fall into place when you have a budget and you have resources to do that. Kevin asks, any good strategies to test out a brand identity with your target market, especially if you're starting from scratch? Any key metrics you'd look to see which brand name? I think, so you could, that's a good question. I know like there's obviously companies out there that do like, I've dabbled in it a little bit in a past job, but the idea of having like kind of like these sessions with people or a group of people about like, hey, if you saw this, like how does this make you feel? Like you can do some of that stuff. There's companies out there that do like market research on how people feel about brands, how they feel about a statement. Like say you have like a main heading or your the anthem for your company, what you believe in, like they can get that in front of people and ask, and you could apply to yourself like, hey, I'm going to have a call, I'm going to schedule a call with 5 different potential customers and show them the same thing and see what they say about it. Like whether it's a landing page or you show them an app experience that has these brand elements versus a different set of brand elements. I think it's just like having conversations like, hey, how does this make you feel? What does this make you think? And I think there's a lot of companies too, like where they have all the evidence, like they did all the research. They're like, this is what we think is the right thing to do for our brand, and they launch it, and it's not what they thought. So, I think it's kind of a gut feeling, but also like you can play it safe at first and then kind of go from there. Maybe, yeah. I wish I had a more clear answer on that. I'm sorry. Let's see. And I don't know. Yeah, key metrics for that. Yeah, I don't know. I think branding metrics are weird because at the end of the day, I think the most important brand metric is your sales. So if you're as a company, it's like if you're suffering to get sales, like it might either it's your sales process or how people are perceiving you. So there's a couple things there, and then those are kind of connected. Like the way people perceive you is like if someone is on a sales call and they're talking to customers, or you're doing these ads and people are like keep seeing these ads and they're just like, I don't like that. I don't like how that makes me feel. Like I think that's still part of it. So I think at the end of the day, like your sales are the key metric of how your brand is performing. Yeah, you can get feedback on social media to be like, hey, what do you think about this? I don't know. I guess I don't have experience on like how to properly do that, execute that, but it'd be interesting. Engagement is a major key. We have been working on reaching our community by engaging people on social media. However, we aren't close to launch. We're wondering how to build product hype with said target market. One thing you can do is just kind of find, yeah, no problem, Kevin. Ivan, one thing you can do is like research online, like where your customers are, like where they're hanging out. There's also sites like Product Hunt to kind of hype up your product. You can create a landing page. You should be creating like kind of like some kind of landing page or website around your product before it's launched. Like one, like to just validate, do people even want this thing? To hopefully get some emails, and maybe you can reach out to those folks that are already interested to like kind of test out the product or test out the service you're going to offer a little bit. We're actually going to be talking about that on Monday on building landing pages and what those can look like. But Ryan and Robert actually earlier today, I can link to that too. They had a presentation about understanding your customers before you have any yet, and so I'll share that, and they deep dive in like how do you find your customers, you know, go to where they are. So it's like finding them online, maybe in your local community, depending on what you're offering. And you just have to spend time with them. And sometimes it's one customer at a time, depending on what you're doing. But like a landing page is kind of that first step, I think. But hopefully that's helpful, Ivan. It's like it is like there's really no like secret recipe for like getting your first like 10 customers, 100 customers. Like you just have to put in the work and understand like where they are, what they like, and how you can create an offer that they're interested in. So and that could be creating value before you even have the product, like whether it's a free workshop, educating them on like something that's relative to what you're going to do, or just, you know, something that you know that your group is passionate about. So yeah, is there any more questions? I don't think I saw any in the Q&A. It's all in the chat here, but I think that's okay. I don't know if I missed any. Oh, I need to bounce back over to YouTube. Nope, looks like we're good. Nobody on YouTube. Solo today. No one else to like bounce the conversations off of. So yeah, I think we can wrap it up unless anybody else has a question. I'm happy to answer it, but in the meantime, you know, be sure to check out all our other content on our YouTube channel. Yeah, no problem. Happy to do it, Austin.